What up, people? Welcome back to Vlog with Quinn about Pokemon. This is gonna be vlog number 2. And this time we're going over the other pools drafts to see who I identify as being a scary one and what you should be careful about when you're going up against some of these people here. And we'll see who has the best, who has the worst drafts. Doesn't really matter to me as much because I'm not facing these people directly. But I mean, people loved the first vlog so much that I didn't want to deny you guys the pleasure of having more of this content. So let's get going here. We'll go through everybody who we haven't gone through yet, starting off at Riley in the yellow pool. So, first of all, big weakness to rocks. Lots and lots of weaknesses to rocks. That's pretty scary because stealth rocks I think will be pretty good. That's something that I look at immediately. I also see here a weakness to water. One important thing though, that weakness is a 4x weakness on your Terra Pokemon. I like having Arcanine Hisui as being the Terra Pokemon because it has two 4x weaknesses. On the other hand though, does it really need, is it a key Pokemon in your build? I don't know, it doesn't do an insane amount of damage. It has some nice utility obviously. It has Stealth Rocks, it has Snarl, Will-O-Wisp, some good damage reduction. But it's not your core Pokemon either, so I'm not 100% sold on it, but it's pretty good. What I like about this team a lot is it has two sort of archetypes within it. It has a Sun archetype, with Walking Wake, Ninetales setting it up with Drought, Walking Wake profiting from it, Arcanine Hisui obviously profiting from it with Fire moves, and Volcarona, same thing. Fire moves are boosted in the Sun. It's pretty damn nice. On the other hand, though, you have a Trick Room mode, because Reuniclus exists. Reuniclus has 30 speed, but it has 125 special attack, so if it moves first, it bops things. It bops things hard. Same goes for Pangoro. And the Necrozma Duskmane, which is your main Pokemon here, your restricted, the one you've paid a lot of points for, is very good at setting it up because it's quite tanky, and it also likes it because it's 77 speed. I'm a little bit concerned because the overlap isn't really there. There's no one Pokemon that ties it all together very nicely, in my opinion. I mean, maybe that's the Arcanine, because it can also go extreme speed, Terra Normal, and just destroy things with priority. So that could be quite nice. I like having the Zeraora with the Electro Web with a super high speed. That's another form of speed control for you. So you don't need to go for that Trick Room. But if you're bringing Reuniclus, you're probably going to want to go for the Trick Room. Otherwise, it's just going to get one shot by a dark move. And you won't be happy. You'll just get knocked off. And you're sad because your defense is pretty low. No Wide Guard, that's a bit unfortunate, but there is so much scary stuff going on here. Volcarona can go Quiver Dance, set up like that. Necrozma Duskmane, I think it has some Swords Dancey stuff. There's fast stuff. It's hard to prepare for this. There's just a lot of strong mons here, and you really have to consider a lot of different options. So for that reason, I'm putting this into the A tier. This is going to be the Necrozma. Strong. Then we got Thijs here. Thijs, oof. This is a strong one for a newcomer, in my opinion. I mean, we have two really strong Pokemon. We have the Mega Rayquaza and the Arceus. Arceus is so strong in draft because there are so many sets you can bring. You can go Iron Defense Body Press. You can go Snarl and Calm Mind. You can go like Calm Mind Judgment stuff with Recover. There's so much you can do with Arceus. You can even use it as like a freaking hazard setter. You can do pretty much anything with that guy. So that's just absolutely amazing. And it's normal, so you can even go the Swords Dance Extreme Speed version. You don't have to go Special Attack. Really nice. And you can take any item on it as well. So super nice. The Mega Rayquaza, really good counter as well to weather teams because of that Delta Stream. It's just completely shutting down weather. So you have some super good super good tools. You have a nice resistance profile, a bit weak to fighting, but then again, your Mega Rayquaza resists that, so does your Weezing. Those are two strong mons for you. You just have a lot of like anti-stuff, because you have the neutralizing gas as well, disabling other abilities. That's pretty cool. It doesn't really combo with the Mega Rayquaza, but one moment you might want the one, the other moment you might want the other. That's pretty nice. You have Fake Out and Follow Me on. Pikachu as a nice utility mon that can also do a lot of damage when you put that lightning ball on it. There's a lot of type coverage, which is cool. You have so many different types on your Pokemon. That being said, okay, there are a few Pokemon that are very slow. You have your Torterra, which has it can go for the shell smash setup thingy. That's like a cool thing, and then I guess the Terra is there to keep it alive, and it can set up a sweep. That's pretty nice. That being said, it's still not gonna be super duper fast. It's a 56 base speed, and yeah, that is kind of an issue. You might need to use Arceus or Rayquaza, and you might end up using one of those to set up Tailwind, which is not the best. You don't want to put one of those move slots on that for that Tailwind. So that's not great. The speed tiers are all over the place, which is kind of nice. It's hard to prepare, but that does mean that I think some of these lower tier mons will probably not get much use. Lower speed tier, I mean, because it's just gonna be slightly awkward in my opinion. I gave it a B plus tier because I do think you have so many different things, but no real synergies, no real good synergies in my opinion. Yeah, you can piece synergies together, but there's a lot of like anti other things. Heatran absorbing fire moves, for example. Pikachu absorbing lightning moves. So that's nice, but where's your own game plan? So I'm putting it in the B, top of the B tier, because I think it's very good. Then we got Kenzo over here. How long have we been talking for? 6 minutes already. Okay, we gotta keep it snappy. Gotta keep the audience engaged. So, Kenzo not going for a big legendary mon. Instead, has that Mega Salamence. Which can pump out, I believe, hyper voices that will be converted to flying attacks because of that air relate ability. 4 times weak to ice is unfortunate, but you have the Chi-Yu and Clefairy, two really, really strong supports for a Chi-Yu, increasing its damage, Clefairy decreasing the damage it takes. Really, really nice stuff. There are a few problems, in my opinion. You have a lot of shitter mons. There's Shellos, Riolu, Slowpoke, Haunter, Porygon. If you're taking more than one of these, you're probably shooting yourself in the foot because everything you have is going to be so squishy. That's not nice. Slowpoke is a nice counter to Trick Room. Riolu has some cool things. It has like Follow Me, and it has some other good support moves. It has Prankster, so that's kind of funny. Shadow's good against water teams, etc. It's fine. They have specific niches, but if you're taking more than one of these, that's a problem. What are you left with? You're left with 6 Pokemon to choose from. That's pretty easy to prepare against, especially because there's no Terra either. So that's kind of a problem. Another big problem here. Clefairy is your main redirector. It's good next to Mega Salamence, but that's about it. It's decent next to Chi-Yu, I guess. But it's not that great next to Tapu Koko and Iron Valiant because, let's look at Clefairy here. Weak to Poison, so are those two. Right? Weak to Steel, so is the Iron Valiant. So that is kind of a problem. These have the same resistance profiles. Clefairy, Tapu Koko, and Iron Valiant. So yeah, that is something that I mean, people are going to want to use Steel or Poison moves anyway to get rid of your Clefairy. And then it's also good against Tapu Koko and Iron Valiant at the same time. That's a bit unfortunate. So I think for that reason, this one it goes into the B tier, Mega Salamence. Good luck. Then we got one of the big boys. We got Stefan. I mean, he's been preparing a lot, and you can tell because he made a very nice team. It has only 10 mons, but all 10 of them, I think, are relevant. And that is really impressive because that still means if somebody has 12 mons, but a lot of them are bad, it's better to have 10 mons, but all of them are good. So what do we have here? We have the Tornadus Incarnate as his first pick, and then the Raging Bolt and the Gouging Fire to go along with it. 2 Photosynthesis mons, so he will most likely want to play in Sun. He can set up Sun easily with the Gouging Fire, or even easier with Tornadus Incarnate with that Prankster Sunny Day, setting it up. Another option, Vulpix. You can just switch it in. I don't know if he's going to be bringing it all that much. I think maybe Sunny Day will be fine, but we'll see. It's a squishy Pokemon. That's the main reason. As you can see, there's a lot of weaknesses to ground. However, there's 2 really important immunities to ground. Tornadus is your most expensive mon. It's immune to ground. Earthworm is literally eating the ground moves that you throw at it, healing HP. So that's actually really nicely done in my opinion. Good resistance profile. It has resistance to everything. Check out the speeds. It's kind of all over the place. Kingambit has Sucker Punch, so it doesn't matter that much that it has lower speed. but because it has lower speed, it can function in Trick Room. Yeah, Mr. Mime, a super versatile support mon. Only thing is, if you don't have it, you don't have access to either to Fake Out, no access to Follow Me, no access to Wide Guard. It has all three of those super key moves. If you don't bring it, you don't have access to that. That being said, I think that's fine. I think you have such strong moves that you can just not run it every now and then, and that's completely fine. You're just gonna outdamage them, and because you have certain counters like the Earthworm, and you're so strong under Sun with these Raging Bolt and Counting Fire, two super strong mons, and the Blacephalon, I think you're gonna be fine. Mega Diancie, Mega Absol both have Magic Bounce, so you can kind of mitigate a little bit of that rock weakness because you can bounce back the Stealth Rocks, which is really cool, and you're less vulnerable to status moves. So yeah, if I'm playing against this, I'm definitely I know that Tornadus Incarnate's coming in. You want to make sure that Tornadus Incarnate dies fast, bring some electric moves. But hey, look at that, Raging Bolt, Counting Fire, they both resist electric moves. So that's what's really, really, really nice about this, I think. For that reason, it's going to be I think one of the hardest teams to answer, and I'm putting it in the S tier. We're moving on to Barty, a new contender on the block as well, but immediately being thrown into the yellow pool, into the deep. Will he have the strength to compete? I believe he will. He has a really nice core of Pokemon, in my opinion. Let's look at the resistances real quick. We can see that, unfortunately, his Zamazenta is weak to ground, and so are his Raichu and Overcool. I think these are three of his best 6 mons, right? Let's look, because he has some really bad mons. Magikarp, Wailord, I don't think we really need to look at those. Mapus is fine for the Intimidate, but you also have Intimidate on Overquill, so that's a little bit just extra of the same thing. Then you're left with these 7, of which I think Shifter is the weakest. So 3 of your best mons are weak to ground. That's a bit unfortunate. That being said, you have Giratina. Giratina Origin can get Levitate. Alright, Levitate mitigates that weakness to ground a little bit. So that's quite nice. And I think Giratina Terra is super good. I think the reason is that you can run weakness policy on it. It's a very good item, and completely catch people off guard with it. You can also set up with it. You can go Calm Mind on it, and it's a bulky boy. It's strong under Tailwind. It can get a lot of damage down because it has pretty decent attack numbers, but also within Assault Vest, it's so tanky. So I think that's really quite nice. It's I think a good Terramon. You have Gardevoir, which doesn't have to be Mega, of course. It can have some nice utility in the regular Gardevoir with something like Tracing Intimidate or something. Telepathy, making sure that if you're using AoE moves, you don't hit your own Gardevoir. But that Mega Gardevoir comes in for a lot of damage if you need it, which is really nice. You have the Indeedee as just a great catch-all support Pokemon that has Follow Me. It stops Fake Outs, and it can set up Trick Room if you want, which you do want sometimes. It's nice to have that Trick Room mode, to have it on your Pokemon, so that if you come into a scenario where it's good, you can use it. You can also still go Tailwind. It's nice, you have the multiple options, Tailwind or Trick Room. The main thing is that I'm pretty sure you're not using these 3 Pokemon at the end. For that reason, I am going to not put it in S tier, I'm going to put it in the A tier. That's going to be the Zamazenta. I mean, Zamazenta is also really quite difficult to counter. It's just extremely strong, and it can do some different sets. There's also a little bit of anti-synergy with the Indeedee, your own Fake Outs, so that's something that you want to keep in mind for sure. That brings us to Yusing. I think Yusing had a lot of fun with the draft. I think he asked ChatGPT which Pokemon to choose, and ChatGPT gave him a list of Pokemon. That's really funny. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any Terra. His resistance profile is decent because he does have a lot of like different types, and he has 12 Pokemon, so you never know. He can cook. He has a lot of options to cook, especially with a lot of those middle of the pack Pokemon that are just decent. They're gonna be good. You can literally play with all of these Pokemon, I think. But just because there's nothing that jumps out to me as being really strong, no like certain good synergies, I think you're gonna have a hard time when you're up against people who have the really strong, legendary, overpowered Pokemon. So I think you need to work very hard to achieve the same things that other teams can achieve. There's some 4 times weaknesses here with ground. There's a 4 times weakness here, which is not nice. You have double dragon types as well, so on 2 of your strongest Pokemon, so that's kind of unfortunate. If you go Mega Charizard X, that is. With Y, you have the flying type. You're more weak to rocks. And you can go into a sun mode, but there isn't much sun synergy, except for the Lilligant that could go chlorophyll after you stuff, encore stuff, sleep powder stuff. So I see that as an option, going for the Mega Charizard Y with the Lilligant. And then just grabbing Pokemon that are good against the opponents. That being said, I put it in the C tier just because I think it has to work so hard. Okay, that brings us to Tom, I believe. Okay, Tom. Tom has an interesting one. He has a lot of bulky sweepers, like setup sweepers, I would say. It's a team for sure. I believe that it's can be very strong in Trick Room. You have the Gudra Hisui, which does a lot, can do a lot. Sylveon can do a lot of damage. Mesprit is just a nice support Pokemon. You have the Hoopa, Unbound, and Como-O. All these are big damage dealers. And I think Como-O has a pretty good Z move. I'm not 100% on that. It has a good signature move in any case that you can set yourself up pretty nicely and go for a sweep if you're under Trick Room. Trick Room will be set up by either the Hoopa or the Mesprit. And you kind of have to, I feel like. If you don't have Trick Room, you're going to get outsped by everything. And you get hit a lot super effectively, especially by Fairy types. Fairy types really hit you super effectively. So you don't want to be moving second because you will be destroyed. Same goes for Ice types. They're really strong against you. So that is kind of an issue. You really need to make sure you get that Trick Room down. You don't have Follow Me, or you have one Fake Out or in the Salazzle, but that's unfortunately your fast Pokemon. Oopsie daisy. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in the B tier for now, but kind of the lower end of the B tier. And that brings us to Pablo, which is, I think, the first person in DSGA draft history to try out sandstorm stuff. Okay, so cool idea, Pablo. Very nice. Unfortunately, sand I don't think is super good if you can prepare against it. That being said, though, wow, you have a nice selection of useful Pokemon. I think none of these are completely useless. Some are more niche techs. But there are a lot of Pokemon that you can expect literally in any matchup, which is really cool. Your main pick here was the Rillaboom. That was your first pick, which I think is pretty cool. It's a really good Pokemon. It's a VGC Pokemon that does a lot of different stuff. It does it does grass type damage, which is pretty nice. Can complement rocks in some way by taking out water types, for example. And it sets up the grassy terrain, keeps your stuff healthy, and you don't have ground types, which I think, you don't have ground types, so you're not reliant maybe on earthquakes that much, which Rillaboom would nerf with his grassy terrain, so that's nicely done. Keep that in mind when you're playing against Pablo as well. He looks quite weak against ground, but because of that Rillaboom, earthquake specifically is nerfed on grassy terrain. So bring your single target ground moves. You have Intimidate on Scrafty, which is nice. It's obviously a really strong Pokemon as well with the Fake Out. Tyranitar is going to be kind of the core Pokemon here, which you build around because it sets up the sand. Stakataka is the one of the ones that you set up because in the sand it gets that defense bonus, and it's going to be even stronger, dishing out big damage at 13 speed with 211. That's a big body press. We're going to do a lot of damage. I've seen a couple things that are interesting. Articuno Galar is going to deter Intimidates from the enemy side because competitive boosts your stats if you get hit by Intimidate or any stat lowerage. So that's really cool. You have pretty good support move coverage, I would say. You have everything you want. No haze against the Dondozo, so that could be a bit of an issue. Or like any other bulky water types, it might be a bit of an issue, especially once Rillaboom is down. That's something to take into account. But yeah, there's multiple sand synergies. I think Houndstone is interesting. I mean, we've all looked at it when we were evaluating the board, knowing there's 6 Pokemon, it's going to be stronger. But towards the end of the battle, maybe you don't have your sand setter left. That could be a bit of an issue. So it's the question whether that comes off the ground or just immediately gets bopped. Yeah, you can play a slow game using Trick Room, using your high defense Pokemon. You can stall with Stealth Rocks, for example. You're a bit weak to fighting, but your stack attack has Terra, so that mitigates it a lot, and you already have some immunities as well. So that's pretty good. Oh, sorry, no, you have one immunity in the Houndstone, but your stack attack is still Terra. For that reason, I think all in all, it goes into the A tier, pretty dang strong. Moving on to Ben. Oh, gosh, this is going on long. Let's do a couple more. We got Ben over here. Ben has the Mega Lucario as his main guy. I mean, that's pretty nice. You have a lot of hazard control, which is something that I noticed. You have multiple Stealth Rock setters, but you also have the Galvantula, so you can also set up that Sticky Web, which is kind of interesting. If I'm playing against this, I would certainly think about maybe including a Rapid Spin or a Defog or something of the like. You also have your Spikes and Toxic Spikes with Roserade, so you could play a hazard-based game. That being said, your team is not like super tanky, but the Terras, having the 2 Terras, you can definitely force out some switches. So that's pretty nice, and you can apply your hazards that way. Really good offensive and defensive coverage. You have a super spread out type chart. The Sandshrew, I don't really know if it does anything, but yeah, I mean, it's nice that in general you have decent mons at different price points with very different types. You're weak to Ghost, but being weak to Ghost usually means you have a lot of Ghost types, which means you're also kind of strong against Ghosts. That's something to keep in mind. You also have the Darkrai, which is strong against Ghosts and is really fast, so you might be okay in that regard. I like how it isn't reliant on a single strategy, but just has a lot of things that I believe it can do well. It's a bit similar to Theis's team, I feel like, where everything is a little bit less synergistic with each other, but you can. That's also makes it so that you're hard to prepare against this team. You probably just want to stick to your own strategy. Don't worry too much about really countering anything specific, because it's going to be difficult and you just don't know what exactly Ben is going to cook up. I don't think it does anything particularly amazing, so for that reason I'm putting it solidly in the B tier. I think it's pretty good. You have some really good damage spread, good special attackers, but also good attackers. So if you can maintain speed control, I think you are doing okay. And for that, you have Thunder Wavers. For that, you have a Tailwind setter. You probably have. You can also probably Electro Web with the Galvantula. You can Icy Wind with these guys. So I think pretty good. And we have David over here. David, I think we don't need to spend too much time on this one because I don't want to give any tricks away. But I think anybody can see that he's going for a Perish Song Shadow Tag team. I think it's absolutely counterable. I think it's super obvious what you're going for. I think it's hard to win if you're not using the Perish Song strategy because so many of your Pokemon are chosen around it. You have some pretty big weaknesses as well. So David is a really good player. I know I believe he kind of drafted quite poorly, but on purpose, very well, knowingly. Like, I think he knew that he wasn't necessarily drafting for a tournament winning team here, but for a fun team. A very hard to execute team, but also very hard to play against team. So this is going to just make for really fun matches, and I hope he does well with it, but I'm putting it in the C tier. And that brings us to Yonto. Yonto I have some thoughts about. He sadly took my Ogre Pawn. I wish I had my baby boy Ogre Pawn. The reason why I put it here as Ogre Pawn Hearthflame is because I don't think any other of the Ogre Pawn modes are going to do him a lot of good. He has the Koraidon, and you need some stuff that benefits from the sun. Otherwise, it's just so sad. And the main thing that benefits from it is that Mega Houndoom, which is competing for a slot on the team with Mega Aerodactyl. Mega Aerodactyl actually being quite nice because it covers some of the opposing fighting types with his rock moves. And yeah, it is the only thing that you have with the rock and flying types. So those are some pretty good offensive types. So that's a bit rough. The other thing that benefits from the sun is that Ogre Pawn Hearthflame with the Ivy Cudgel. So you probably want to use that one. Now he decided to Terra it as well. But the Terra of Ogre Pawn is very predictable, because as soon as you see which mask it's using, you know which Terra it is. Also, you've invested the points in the Terra, so you're going to want the Terra it, but only the Ogre Pawn Hearthflame really wants the Terra. Ogre Pawn Cornerstone doesn't want a Terra, it gets a defense boost, but it has 30. The water one, I think, gets a speed boost or something like that, which is nice, but I don't think it's that huge. Let me check. That could still be usable, of course. A special defense, sorry. The normal one is the speed boost. So yeah, the normal one and the water one, I mean, they are still quite nice, but it's especially this one that you really like because it has 30 with the Follow Me, which is one of the only Pokemon that has that. This has the Defiant, which can be really good into Intimidators, and this has Water Absorb. So this can of course be nice in a Sun team, but the problem is you're not benefiting that much from the Sun, because Koraidon doesn't benefit that much from it itself. Except for, yeah, of course, for the attack boost that it gets. So what that means is that your flexibility of the Ogre Pawn is sadly a bit hindered. But it's so strong that you can choose the type, but I think your opponent's gonna prepare for the fire type one. That gives you, the options to go for something else, but I don't think your team is as strong anymore if you do that. You have a bit of a hyper offense team. You have very high speeds, but you don't have any real priority moves that are very strong, and yeah, you have to set up Tailwind with the Mega Aerodactyl, but then you don't have the Mega Houndoom, so that kind of blows. You really need to deny Trick Room too, so I think it's hard to use. There is a world in which you are happy about Trick Room and you use it to set up your Eevee with the Z move, Baton Pass, all the stats that you got from the Z move to your Koraidon, maybe your Rotom, maybe one of your Megas. But in general, I think it's going to be very hard to use. I put B tier, but I think I'm going to change it to be C tier as well. Okay, well, we have 4 left. Let's just get through it, boys. I hope you're all still, not tired of me yapping. But I'm sure you aren't, because I have so many interesting things to say. Bringing us to number 16G, which is Martijn over here. And the G in the green pool. No Terras, first of all, jumps out at me, and the highest Pokemon was Palkia here, which was one of the later ones that he picked. Very interesting. I think by that itself already kind of shows you that the team isn't necessarily structured around his most high powered Pokemon. He kind of just chose some stuff. It is quite gimmicky, I think. There are just different Pokemon that have certain gimmicks. You have the Excadrill, which has the gimmick that it's very fast in sand, but it's hard to set up sand. It will have to do it for itself, basically. You have the Shuckle, which has the guard split gimmick that you can give your defenses to something else. You have Glimora, which has the gimmick of poisoning everything. And if you can then stall, then that's pretty good. Palkia can go well with stall, but yeah, I mean, there isn't really a clear game plan. Your weaknesses, I mean, they're okay, but I think in general there are some things that you are a bit worried about. Yeah, you want Trick Room, I think Trick Room is pretty good for this team. Palkia can definitely work in Trick Room. You can also go to Palkia Origin form, which I forget, does it have more speed? Yeah, it does have more speed. So if you want to go Palkia Origin form, then you kind of need the Tailwind. If you want Palkia regular form, then you're more into the Trick Room stuff. It can do a lot of damage. But setting up Trick Room, you will need your Palkia itself for that. And then you can use Magnezone, Snorlax stuff to benefit from it. I think it can get a strong position in Trick Room. And since you have some good defensive mons, you can force the opponent to pivot quite a bit. And that's where the Glamora strategy can come in. Right, your Snorlax is quite defensive, Magnezone is quite defensive. Is it actually? Yeah, it's reasonably good. It has a high defense stat. This one has a high special defense stat, and your Shuckle can make things very defensive. It only has 20 HP, so that's why itself it's not super duper tanky. But yeah, I think all in all, it has to go into the C tier. That brings us to, let's see. No, we have had you. That brings us to Francisco. Okay, Francisco, cool. Another Sun team has a Torkoal with the Drought, Flutter Mane with the Photosynthesis. That's cool. You have two things next to each other. A fast Pokemon that you can actually use to set up Trick Room if you want, which is kind of interesting. Like on one turn, it might just first, if there's an enemy Pokemon that it can instantly snipe, it can do that, or it can force it to switch out. I think they're a very good combo, Flutter Mane and Torkoal. Because the Torkoal is very slow, which is usually its weakness, but if you put a Flutter Mane next to it, which is really fast, while that can be anti-synergy, the Flutter Mane threatens things that are a threat to Torkoal because of just how freaking strong Flutter Mane is. 135 special attack and 135 speed, and you can use it Photosynthesis to boost its special attack even further, give it choice specs, and it'll just kill everything. Or you build it more flexibly with the Icy Wind, with the Trick Room stuff, with the Thunder Wave stuff. You can slow things down. Torkoal is still not going to be faster than it though, so that is more viable if you put it, for example, next to the Ursaluna Blood Moon, or next to the Armarouge. The Armarouge is very good because of its expanding force, but the only Psychic Terrain setter I think you have is Whimsicott. I don't know if I have Psychic Terrain in here. Oh no, itself is the only Psychic Terrain setter, so that's not something you love. I feel like this team really misses Indeedee, sadly. It would have been so good, but instead you have Whimsicott. Indeedee would be a great Trick Room setter. It would be great with the Armarouge with the expanding force. And it would be much better Follow Me user than Magmar. The problem with Magmar is that it has the same weaknesses as your Torkoal has, and your Armarouge, because they're all fire type, which sucks. You don't want your Follow Me to have the same weaknesses as your main carries. That's the main problem here. So while you have a nice damage split with the Torkoal being special, Flutter Mane being special, Ursaluna and Annihilape being physical, Armarouge is a special boy as well. You also just have a couple kind of shitty Pokemon, and yeah, all in all, it's not the greatest. It's gonna be quite hard to really make it work and deal significant damage with these really slow Pokemon and a redirector that has the same. So I think I did put it in B tier, but I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna put it in the C tier, which brings us to the final one. Here we have Izzy, who I guess came out of nowhere. I didn't know he was playing, but hell yeah, that's gonna be fun. He immediately grabbed the Rain package, being at the end of the draft, could do that nicely, which is pretty cheap. Kingdra Politoed, it has some nice options. Kingdra with the Swift Swim, if it's next to the Politoed, that sets the Rain. With Drizzle, can sweep in and do a lot of damage. That's really nice. Another really nice thing is that you have the Rain with Tornadus and Landers, which both are not water types, but really benefit from the Rain, because they have moves that suddenly become 100% accurate in the Rain, the Sandsear Storm and the Bleak Wind Storm. So you can spam those moves with these two strong Pokemon, and you can even Terra your Tornadus Therian to either protect it or make those moves do even more damage. But since you're somewhat weak to Electric, you probably want to Terra it semi-defensively. You have your Urshifu Rapid Strike, which is another one of those Pokemon that comes with an extra nice stab option and has still the water moves that are stronger in the Rain. So I think it's a super strong Rain core. If the Rain gets denied, it's not the end of the world. The Sand Seer Storms are still going to be strong. So are the Bleak Wind Storm. Urshifu's still going to do a lot of damage. You can even have Rainy Day. What's it called? Rain Dance. On every single Pokemon that you have. Basically. That's quite nice. You can keep setting up the rain. Megaladios is a Pokemon that wasn't super expensive, but it's a really fast, high damage Pokemon. So you just have so many threatening Pokemon. You don't have a fire type. You don't have electric type, ice, poison. You're missing some coverage moves like Ghost and Dark. So psychic types are unchecked. You have no fairy types either. So that's a bit unfortunate because it's a very strong offensive type. But it's just a really strong team. For that reason, I'm putting it in the A tier. The core is so good. And that wraps it up. Okay, people. I hope I didn't offend anybody, but if I did, hell yeah, it's time to start some drama. The unsorted Incineroar player, I don't know who that is. I guess they weren't in the sheet. I think that we have the strongest teams up here. Stefan, Martin, and Justin. I think there are some good contenders. But you know what? The nice thing about this draft is somebody's going to take you completely off guard and surprise you with some stuff that you weren't expecting. Anyway, I wish you all the best of luck with your matches that are coming up, and let me know what you think.